In 1985, two men stood at the absolute peak of popular music. One wore a single sequin glove, the other wore purple everything. And the world couldn't stop asking the question, who's better? But here's what nobody talks about. Prince himself had thoughts on this rivalry, real thoughts. Candid moments captured on camera, in interviews, and conversations that reveal a relationship far more complex than the media ever let on. Because while the world was busy creating a competition, these two artists were creating something else entirely. And what Prince said about Michael Jackson, in his own words, changes everything you thought you knew about the so-called rivalry between the king of pop and the purple one. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. Prince admitted he turned down the biggest musical collaboration, a duet with Michael Jackson that would have broken every record in existence. But why? The answer reveals the real dynamic between these two legends. Let's go back to where this all started. Michael Jackson releases Off the Wall, and the album goes supernova. 5 million copies sold, 4 top 10 singles. Critics are calling him a genius. And over in Minneapolis, a 21-year-old artist named Prince Rogers Nelson is watching very closely. That same year, Prince releases his second album. It's self-titled, it's bold, it's funky, but it doesn't explode the way Off the Wall does. Not yet. By 1982, Michael drops Thriller. And you know what happens next? The album doesn't just succeed, it rewrites the rules of what success even means. 40 million copies worldwide, 7 top 10 singles, music videos that play like short films. Michael Jackson becomes the biggest entertainer on planet Earth. But something's happening in Minneapolis. In 1984, Prince releases Purple Rain, the album, the movie, the cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, there are two kings. And the media, sensing a story, does what the media does best. They create a battle. And here's where it gets interesting. Because Prince didn't ask for this comparison. He didn't want it, but he couldn't escape it either. Every interview, every magazine cover, every awards show the question hung in the air like smoke. Prince or Michael? But what did Prince actually think? Let's hear it from him. In a 1985 interview, Prince was asked directly about Michael Jackson, and his answer tells you everything about how he viewed their relationship. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here because this is the essence of his response, "When you're at the top, there's only one. It's like James Brown. Nobody's James Brown but James Brown. And I'm Prince. He's Michael." Think about what he's saying there. He's not playing the game. He's not saying he's better or worse. He's saying they're incomparable. Different lanes, different energies, different purposes. Prince respected Michael deeply. He saw what Michael was doing, the innovation in music videos, the way he moved, the unprecedented level of fame, and he recognized it as something unique. But Prince also knew who he was. Multi-instrumentalist, producer, writer, a studio wizard who could play every instrument on an album and make it sound like a full band. His identity wasn't dependent on being better than anyone else. And here's something most people don't know. Prince almost worked with Michael Jackson multiple times, not just once, multiple attempts at collaboration. The most famous one? Bad. In 1987, Quincy Jones and Michael wanted Prince for the duet on Bad. The concept was simple. Two legends, one track, pure electricity. They sent Prince the demo, and Prince said no. Why? According to Prince, and he talked about this years later, the lyrics didn't sit right with him. The whole "your butt is mine" opening line, Prince thought it was too aggressive, too confrontational. And if he's being honest, he didn't want to be in a song where the premise was about proving who's tougher or badder. He saw through it. He knew the media would have a field day. Prince versus Michael, the ultimate showdown, and Prince wanted no part of that narrative. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Because despite all the media hype, despite the comparisons, despite turning down collaborations, Prince and Michael actually hung out. There's a famous story that Prince told in interviews about a ping pong game. Yes, ping pong. It happened at Prince's house. Michael came over, They were just two guys, away from the cameras, away from the stadiums and the screaming fans, and they played ping pong. Prince described Michael as surprisingly competitive, quick, focused, and in that moment, playing a simple game, there was no rivalry. Just two artists who understood what it was like to live in that stratosphere where nobody else could breathe. Prince said something fascinating about that day. He said Michael was funny, funnier than people realized, that the soft-spoken, shy persona the world saw wasn't the full picture. When Michael relaxed, when he felt safe, there was a sharp wit there, a playfulness, and Prince appreciated that. Because Prince himself was often misunderstood, seen as distant, mysterious, untouchable. But the people who knew him really knew him talked about his sense of humor, his generosity, his warmth. So here's the truth. The media never wanted you to know. Prince and Michael weren't enemies. They weren't even rivals in the way we think of rivalries. They were peers, mutual respect, occasional friends. Two men who understood what the other was going through because almost nobody else on earth could. But the world needed a story. And Prince and Michael are cool with each other doesn't sell magazines. Let's talk about what Prince really thought about artistry. Because this is where his perspective on Michael becomes crystal clear. In multiple interviews throughout the 80s and 90s, Prince emphasized one thing above all else: creative control. He fought Warner Brothers for ownership of his music. He changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol to break free from his contract. He believed artists should own their work, control their sound, and never compromise for commercial success. Michael, on the other hand, worked within the system differently. He partnered with the best producers Quincy Jones, Teddy Riley. He understood the machinery of pop music and used it to reach the widest possible audience. His goal was global unity through music. Make the whole world dance. Prince's goal was truth through music. Make the music so undeniably real that the world has to pay attention. Neither approach was better. They were just different, and Prince recognized that. In an interview, he was asked again about Michael, and he said something like this: "Michael's a great artist. What he does, nobody else can do. What I do, nobody else can do either. There's room for both." But there was one moment that showed the real depth of Prince's feelings about Michael Jackson, and it happened after Michael died. The 25th of June 2009, Michael Jackson dies. The world stops. Prince was performing in Europe at the time, and in the days after Michael's death, reporters swarmed Prince, asking for his reaction, his thoughts, his tribute. Prince said very little publicly, and some people criticized him for that. They wanted a big statement, a tearful interview, a tribute concert, but that wasn't Prince's way. What Prince did do was this. In his concerts immediately following Michael's death, he quietly incorporated subtle nods to Michael's influence. A musical phrase here, a rhythm there, nothing overt, nothing showy, just acknowledgement. Because Prince understood something the public didn't always grasp. Grief doesn't have to be performed. Respect doesn't have to be announced. Years later, in one of his final interviews before his own death, Prince was asked about legacy, about what lasts, and he brought up Michael. He said, in essence, Michael changed music videos forever. Michael brought choreography to pop music in a way nobody had before. Michael made Thriller. That's immortal. And then Prince said something that stuck with people. He said, "The music speaks. Long after we're gone, the music is still here. That's what matters." So here's the final revelation. Prince never saw himself in competition with Michael Jackson. The world did, the media did, the fans did. But Prince, he saw a fellow artist navigating impossible fame, making incredible art, and trying to stay human in the process. He saw a mirror, not a rival. So what did Prince really think about Michael Jackson? He thought Michael was brilliant, unique, incomparable. He respected the artistry even when he disagreed with the approach. He turned down collaborations not out of ego, but out of self-preservation. He kept their friendship private because some things are too valuable to be consumed by the public. And when Michael died, Prince mourned the way he did everything else, quietly, deeply, and through his music. The Rivalry? It was a story the world needed to tell itself. Two black artists at the absolute pinnacle, and we couldn't let them both be kings. We had to choose. But Prince chose differently. He chose to be Prince, and he let Michael be Michael. In his own words, there was room for both. There always had been. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Maybe the greatest artists don't compete, they create. They inspire. They leave behind something that outlasts the headlines and the comparisons and the manufactured drama. Prince did that. Michael did that. And in the end, that's all that matters. If you want more untold stories about the King of Pop and the legends who knew him, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for King of Pop. We're diving deep into the moments nobody talks about, the truths the media ignored, and the real stories behind the music that changed the world. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.